Greetings, good people. Thank you for being here today. It's your girl T here with an incredible panel of PR professionals that are going to jump into this new administration, DEI, and the 92% from a PR perspective, because we know how to dig deep into issues, and it seems we're having a lot of issues these days, but also because we are problem solvers. We bring solutions to you in a way that most people don't think about it. So let's go ahead and get started. I want you to know who is speaking to you today, where they come from, and what they do, not only for now, but so that you can also reach out to them later if you want to work with them, if you want to get a better understanding of what's going on and how to get solutions that are customized for you. Miss Tiff Knightsen, let the people know.
Hello, Tanya. It's always great to be with you and everybody who's here on the panel today. Also, I loved your intro. You got to teach me how to do that. I thought that was stellar. But I want to wish everybody a happy Monday, happy post-Kendrick Bowl day. It's a good day. My name is Tiff Knightsen. I'm the founder and PR strategist at Brand Curators. We are a PR and brand management agency dedicated to amplifying diverse voices and helping influential people build, amplify, and monetize their brands. Originally military brat from California and DC area, a little bit of everywhere, but I'm now based in New York City. I'm also a full-time creator and the host of the Main Character Energy podcast. Definitely take a listen. So happy to be here with you today, Tanya.
And she always has main character energy. It's a lot of y'all that could actually use some of what she's given off, because in these moments, we need main character energy to be able to kind of elevate beyond what's going on. Miss Chandra, let them know.
Hi, everybody. My name is Chandra Gore. I am a publicist and consultant from my firm, Chandra Gore Consulting. I'm also the host of Conversations with Chan. It's a podcast. It's also a news outlet. And also, I'm very well in my community. So that's pretty much it. That's about me. That's it.
Chan is, first of all, I need her to pick up some more main character energy, because that's not it. Actually, every time I see a picture of her, she's in front of something big, teaching a lot of people things. Okay. So she doesn't just do this one thing. She also has a newsletter where she is giving off great information. You might want to go ahead and subscribe, because if you want to be a speaker, she actually has opportunities for you. So maybe we'll give her an opportunity to do that again, because she be leaving stuff out. Like the modesty, we're going to have to, melanated modesty needs to come to an end. Okay? All right. Daniel, please let them know.
What's going on, everybody? Daniel Smith here, CEO of Awkward Media Group, a company that was founded on the belief that the best ideas come from the most unexpected places. We're a creative powerhouse that thrives at the intersection of authenticity and innovation. We specialize in media, branding, and storytelling that challenges the norms, amplifying unique voices and leaving a lasting impact. I am also the 29th state director of the state of Florida for Phi Beta Sigma Fraternity Incorporated. And like we always say at Awkward Media Group, we don't just create, we redefine what's possible.
Awkward Media. Where did that name come from?
So that name actually came from working with some clients, and we were trying to figure out our name. We're just working freelance, and the reviews would be like, "It's so awkward how you guys knew exactly what we needed." So I was like, there we go. Awkward Media Group it is.
There it is. All right. I love it. So listen, we're going to go ahead and jump into this conversation real quick and get started with Daniel, because we all know we are in unprecedented times. I'm so tired of that word. We need a new word. Daniel, Tiff, and Chandra, we need to come up with a new word and help the people, because unprecedented, we're done with that. This is something else. Awkward times, like I don't even know what to call it. But since we're entering into these uncharted waters, Daniel, I know that you have some direct experience, and I would like for you to let the people know what this new administration and their assault on DEI has done and how it has impacted your life.
Yeah, so I didn't expect to get hit as hard as I did with the DEI changes, but a few of our grants that we had worked through with clients were landed because of the DEI initiative that a lot of their companies had. So when that was cut, it essentially cut our business. So to get an email 2 weeks after kind of he was inaugurated, to get an email saying that, hey, February 15th will be our last day working with you guys because we can no longer spend these funds in regards to what we were doing. It hit pretty hard. So I've already seen an impact of $20,000 per month on my initial funds that I was bringing in, just because from that grant, they can't spend any more DEI money. It's considered DEI money because we were offered a grant because they had to hire so many African-American companies to work with them. So we've been cut.
It's the reality for a lot of organizations. And I would like to go around and see if there's other things that either you are going through or someone that is going through, because it's almost like the LA fires. Someone that was directly impacted. Either you were directly impacted or someone was directly impacted by these fires. That's how close most of us are out here. We work as a community, we thrive as a community, and when big things happen, many of us get touched by it. So with these DEI rollbacks in this administration, Tiff, I'd love to hear from you, and then Chan, how it has impacted you or someone you know.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, in so many ways, first of all, I'm so sorry, Daniel, about, what has happened with the grants. I have to some degree seen that, not as direct, but just from some, nonprofit organizations that we work pretty closely with, that we usually around this time of year hear back about, some projects that they want to do, but it's been a lot slower. I think even if it's not directly that they're not able to give DEI funding, that there's some other effects of the administration that's causing them to have to reallocate their budget or hold on a little tighter to their budget. And I'm hearing that from a lot of other founders and business owners as well. But outside of that, I mean, one of my clients is an executive search platform for diverse talent, Exec Now. The co-founders, Khalil and Colin, we've had a lot of really in-depth conversations about, what this means for them and the stance that they are taking. And so they actually recently did a live, and we're starting to do this series of lives to create this space for folks to be able to talk about it and not have to be as, hush about it. I feel like we've noticed that there's so many spaces where you just turn left and right, and it's Target and it's McDonald's and it's another one of your favorite brands or companies, and it's become so almost normalized that we're looking for spaces where we can say the quiet part out loud, which is, are you replacing DEI with another word? We'll come back to that. But I will say the conversation and the stance that these founders decided to take through our advising and kind of coming up with, how we're going to approach this is to take a more aggressive stance with it. The last discussion that they did on LinkedIn Live was about how DEI is a non-negotiable for business success. Being able to bring in different talent, different ideas, the data, being able to show the numbers of how successful companies can be when they have diverse teams, and being able to reiterate that, I think, was very refreshing. And so that's kind of a way that we're trying to find our footing within a lot of these recent changes. But definitely think that a lot of these brands, a lot of these organizations, it's kind of an interesting thing that they sort of went out of their way to put these messages out. I actually wanted to know what you thought about that, Tanya, about kind of like the domino effect of companies kind of just willingly able to say that they're not doing DEI anymore.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right into that. Chan, let's go into you and any direct impact that you know of, because Tiff, you know me.
We've had, because, even during our county meetings here, the discussion was using those certain words, because like I'm here in the DC metro area. And so to see so many individuals who are who had to either change their job title so that they can keep their job in the government, but also them being told to tell on, tell that these changes have been made or making these reports. So yes, there's a lot of people who I know directly who have been impacted, who've lost their jobs, or their jobs are being phased out because funding has been pulled. So this whole attack on just those words alone, it's been catastrophic to those who are the breadwinners of their family. Like it's one of those things, like to have to search and take those words out of job descriptions. Even when I go to look online now, a lot of job descriptions have been scrubbed. So yeah, and even our county is looking at possibly changing things, wording, so that our funding is not snatched. So a lot of state and local entities are going to that, are going to removing those words with the happenstance that their funding would be removed. So it's scary because some people have budgeted. Now it's budget season, so going into looking at these things, they're going to have to strip those, and we can't replace it with another word because they're going to be looking for those other code words. So it's kind of like you have to essentially rebrand in a way that cannot be, the pattern cannot be picked up. So I know we're public and we say things out loud all the time. Sometimes, we have to move to a space where we don't say it out loud. And I know that's crazy, but at this point, dealing with the administration that we are dealing with the website that's listing all of the individuals who speak about DEI and their jobs and where they are, all those types of things.
I'm just trying to figure out how our government has decided to start doxing people, but that's a whole different conversation.
I don't have one of those right now. Go ahead.
Here's the thing. I have friends that actually work for the FBI. So things are just incredibly topsy-turvy, and it makes absolutely no sense. But this is what I think, and directly to Tiff's question in regards to, are they calling it something else? My initial reaction is to be still and see how people are actually moving, because I believe that a lot of these companies came out and said, we're going to get rid of DEI. I don't believe that it actually meant they're going to stop hiring us. It just meant that they're going to stop embracing that term.
Right.
Why is that important? We're being very reactive about it. And sometimes that can get us in a position where then we ostracize ourselves. So looking at these companies and how they're moving, to me, is more important than what they're saying. Now,
I agree.
I feel like it was a lot of knee-jerk reaction with some of these companies out of fear of this current administration. And to their credit, yeah, I guess you could be a little afraid because dude is unhinged. At the same time, you do have a Target who, I'm getting rid of DEI, but I'm still hiring Black. I have a girlfriend that works there right now in management. We're still carrying all the Black History Month products. We're still supplying all of the products that we were before. And listening to the conversation, one of the things I want to make clear is my first reaction was that suppliers are going to be hurt more than anyone else. More than employees. And Daniel, you are a supplier. You would be considered a supplier. You supply services to a business. Suppliers are also my friends that have products in Target, hair care products, or nails, or Black owned other cosmetic products, foods, Black vitamins. Those are all suppliers. And I felt like, which that part has happened, those people are going to be the ones that wind up losing out the most, the suppliers, more so than employees, because now they don't have these programs that are saying, let's go out of our way to make sure that we are being inclusive of all the people that shop here and providing products that best suit them. Now they're saying, we're just going to go back to the best products that we can get our hands on, which usually they don't look at us as that. Our products get taken off the shelves before they even get the opportunity to thrive. But this is also something that I think we don't think about. Even if you have your products in Target, and I have a few friends that have products, and I've said this, you never see Target running a commercial for your products.
Nope.
And I think people forget that they still have to do the work to build brand awareness for their products. There's no reason that these companies are not still doing heavy marketing and PR for their products, because half of the products that are Black owned or brown owned in these stores, I didn't even know that. So that means, your products are in the store, but Target ain't marketing you.
they barely market. If you look at it, all of those niche brands that they do have, they don't market. They're not in the larger commercials. You have the Good and Gather. You have their core brands that are in those commercials. Like even right now, we have the Black History Month. That is the only time they don't even Target doesn't even target those brands that they're talking about in those commercials. So this is the biggest thing. Like PR, that whole side of it, that strategic comms part has to go in tandem. Yes, the product is on the stores, but you have to do your own you have to do your own strategic comms to let people know that it's in the stores. You can't just put the onus on this large conglomerate because they have their own brand that they need to recognize. You have to do your own in-house work. It's one thing to get there. Yes, that is amazing. You're on the shelf, but they have their own brand. You have to be your own brand. So just in case that brand takes you off their shelf in their store, people still need to know who you are. And I think that's the biggest thing. You still have to do the work. Being on the shelf is just one part.
Tiff,
and
did that answer your question?
Yeah, and can I say, yeah, definitely. And I'd also like to say, just like on that note, that I found it really interesting some of the backlash that Tabitha Brown was getting for how she was explaining the Target situation. I'm curious to hear you guys' thoughts, but I thought, of course, from a business perspective, she was shining a lot of light on what actually happens. Just like what you're just saying now, that you're in the stores, but that's only half the battle. Think about the loans that people had to take out just to be able to be a supplier in the store, or investors, or whatever they had to do. And now it's like their livelihood is kind of in being in the store, on top of having to do all of their own communications and marketing and PR and everything. So I thought that was a very interesting perspective. She did get a lot of backlash and people were calling her greedy, but I think that a lot of that comes from not understanding the business side of things, and plus trolls are going to troll. So
there's a couple of things I want to respond to that. There's a couple of things that people don't understand about when a Tabitha Brown versus, let's say I have a girlfriend that her clothes got picked up and her designs were picked up by Shein, right? So she designs her stuff and Shein makes it, right?
Awesome.
She designs her stuff, Shein makes it, sells it, does all the things, markets it, obviously. Tabitha's stuff, she don't even make and design her stuff. They slap her name on these items. So there are other small business owners that felt like what she said does a disservice to them because they still have to do the work. Tabitha doesn't actually do the work. She just licensed her name. So when it comes to how products actually get put on shelves or whose name gets put on them and who actually does the work, I think I appreciated what she said, but also there was no differentiating between how she gets her money and how they still have to do the work, do all the marketing, and get their money.
I think that's the education part of it. The education part of understanding the licensing and the actual work, the design from start to finish. So a lot of people, instead of doing a little bit of educating themselves, of understanding between licensing and actual product development, launch, and that part, there's a difference because it's her name. She built her brand to be powerful enough to be slapped onto something. She built her brand from the ground up to the point where people, if she puts her name on something, it matters. It moves meters, it moves, product. Just like Martha Stewart, Rachel Ray, all of these individuals do the same thing. But it's like, because it's in our community, because it's that, we don't take the time to educate ourselves. I'm so congratulations to the young lady who is with Shein, who has her designs. That is amazing because no one's able to take that away from her because that's her intellectual property being, she's doing it from start to finish. She's not being replicated by other fast fashion brands. She's actually doing the work from start to finish, but it's all about who's built their name, their credibility to be licensed like that. Because we have to put tab with Martha Stewart. We have to put tab with those other individuals who don't do that, but they have built a brand inside of their community to be their name to be trademarked and slapped on something. So that's the difference between, I think, educating yourself and knowing the two different lanes that everyone is in. So I think that would solve a whole lot of problems if people were willing to listen to her teach the difference between brand licensing and actually product development and launches. So that's just my take on that. And I don't care if Tab is selling a daggone shoelace. I'm gonna get it because it's her name.
I just wanted to add to that exactly. Like, I think that a lot of people don't hear fully what people are trying to say when they're educating them, and that's just the internet culture and what things are nowadays, right? But I did like specifically what she said, that before you get too hasty to like completely boycott, consider those brands that have no other option. Like, that's their designs, their small business. They put their whole budget into that. And it reminds me of even, an artist that I really love, Winnie Weston, whose work just got into Target. And I love her. I've been buying her art for years. And yes, that's my girl. And she's from DC. She's from DC, right? So she just got into there. And it's like all these campaigns are rolling out. And I just feel for a lot of those creators and business owners who are kind of going into this mess of we're not doing DEI situation, regardless of what it's disguised as. It still kind of just feels like genuinely a slap in the face after you've, put your all into this partnership.
So I'm going to run this by you and start with Daniel to get your input. But my husband, who happens to be a member of Kappa Alpha Psi also, and he has always been anti-DEI. Right? Why is that? Because I agree with him on this. We shouldn't be put in a position where people feel like they had to be brought in, where there is a quota, and that's what it feels like sometimes. Even when we're looking at colleges, Ivy League schools have a quota, and there are some Ivy League schools that have fulfilled their quota, but our people don't do well at those schools. Like, they might graduate, but I have friends that have literally had nervous breakdowns because the pressure is so high or the support is so low. And the pressure is already so high for us to get into and complete college. Then on top of that, having to deal with the fact that, well, do they really want you there? So when we're looking at corporate jobs and situations like that, where they are bringing you in, but did they really want to? So getting rid of DEI actually allows for some of these organizations to say, okay, well, I don't need a program in order for me to realize that I need to do better in recruiting and bringing in quality candidates and hiring people that are good for my organization and that fit into this culture. I want to get your thoughts on that, Daniel.
I think, I have to explain DEI a lot to people, and they're like, why is it so important? And I just think about it, and I give them this analogy, and I tell them, imagine, you were a kid and you're playing with a bunch of kids at recess. DEI was diversity is making sure all the kids got to play, no matter what their background was, their ideas, the way they did things. It was making sure that they were fun, creative, because everybody got to play. Then you got your equity, which is making sure everyone has what they need to play the game fairly. So now it doesn't give the advantage to any other person. Everybody has it. So if one kid has special needs or somebody needs special shoes to run, everybody is included in that. As no one is left out. And then inclusion is making sure that everybody feels welcome. Everybody's heard and everybody's valued in the game. So I look at it as when we use DEI, in our schools, our jobs, our businesses, it's about helping everyone work better together, because some people may not have even been given a seat at the table because you're just used to hiring your norm. It's the same with D9. Sometimes at jobs, we hire a bunch of D9 people to come work with us and not realizing, hey, maybe sometimes you need to broaden your horizon and look from there. So it gives you a chance to make sure that everybody is encompassed into everything that you're doing. So that's how I try to explain DEI. Once I do it that way, then people are usually like, oh, I didn't think about it that way.
Thoughts, Tiff?
Yeah, I mean, I just agree with what you were saying too, Tanya, that like the whole point is to look for the best, right? Like anywhere. So if you're a company, you're looking for the best talent. Wherever, whatever the environment is, you're looking for the best. And it always ends up being when you have the most diverse group of people, diverse people from different backgrounds, religions, cultures, everything, you were already going to come out so much stronger. So I think there's just so much importance on the fact that those programs, you know, got us certain places, opened a lot of doors. It's just so unfortunate what it has been misconstrued into. But I definitely think that DEI is super important. I think that the narrative around it has completely just gone off the rails. But I just want to remind a lot of folks that DEI doesn't just mean Black folks, right? Like I think a lot of times people are equating DEI
with
to
woke
Black people.
Yeah.
like, right.
But
but we know better. We know better.
What makes it so bad? Because remember when the buzzword was critical race theory? Remember when CRT was everywhere, the woke, all of these things. And so because people started thinking and digging a little bit deeper, that kind of quietly went away. I don't know if you all have noticed. That went away, right? And so now because it's a buzzword, because it's an easy target, and because a lot of people are not fully understanding, and Daniel, you were absolutely correct on your explanation of it. A lot of people have been misled so that they could believe that this is what it is, instead of, you know, educating themselves, like, because critical race theory was finally, you know, put to bed, and it was the foothold that it had was was let go because people understood it wasn't a thing. And now they needed to turn it to something else that it gave people the feeling that they were missing out on something, or that someone was getting more than what they were getting. And that has been the how do I put it? That has always been a thing to make other people feel like, so that they can have something to attack. Like we just want to hear exactly what it is. I don't want to think about it. I don't want to go deeper. I just want to feel like someone's getting more than I'm getting. And so we have to put a stop to it because they're not enough. You know what I'm saying? And it's sad because you can have 3 people who have the resumes that literally are identical. Remove race, remove gender, remove all of those things. And then each one of them, their experiences are better than the other. You're going to choose a candidate that's best fit for what you want to accomplish. And if it just so happens to be someone who is of a different race, has a disability, anything like that, that's not taken away from their job, the way that they operate. And so removing those personal feelings, like they're using feelings to fearmonger people into doing things that are not the best.
It's working.
It is, because you're going to have a workforce or a company that's going to essentially fail or not perform as well as they can because they have to, because of a feeling. So instead of going 100%, you're only going to go 75% because of a perceived notion that, I can't just give that to them because of the way that they look. Look at everything. Go into it blindly and look at the experience and look at what they're bringing to the table. And y'all are absolutely correct. It's feeling. It's invoking that emotion that, oh my gosh, they're getting something that I should have.
We got a couple of comments.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Read these comments real quick. So it's DEI. Lyric asked, so is DEI code for depopulation? And then she goes on to ask, slow deterioration for the people. Let me respond to something else that we haven't really talked about in why some of these companies might be getting rid of DEI. Let's not forget that DEI is something that was incentivized by the government. So in order for them, they can still do their hiring, but if they had DEI programs, they were incentivized fiscally by the government. So if the government is now saying, I'm not going to, which he definitely is, we are not going to reward you for doing diversity work, then why would a company continue to say it instead of just do it? I'm just putting it out there that way. In order for you to wrap your mind around the whole, how did we get here? It was started to incentivize companies to do that work. If you are a smart leader and you recognize not only will this government not give me any benefits for doing the work, they might even try to penalize me for calling it such.
Yeah.
Why wouldn't they just take the title off and then do the work? That's where I come in and say, we need to be more watching what they're doing and not just what they're saying. I have one more comment, and then Daniel, for you. Ms. Helen said boycotting for Black folks in 2025 doesn't look as it did in the 60s. Black folks were not vested in capitalism in the 60s. We did not have merchandise in those stores. We were not working in those stores. We were customers in those stores. Boycotting did not have financial consequences for us personally. I love Tabitha, but she has more than 4 million followers. She must figure out how to capitalize on that following. Miss Gore just made this point. She will follow Tabitha. There is no such thing as, and then she cut off. If you want to finish that, Miss Helen, please do, because the comment cut off and I wanted to finish reading what you said. But yeah, any comments on that?
No, I mean, I think when you look at DEI and everything that it is, you have to, I mean, I think I was watching CNN and somebody came on and he gave a stat and said that diverse companies were 70% more likely to capture new markets.
Yep.
Because they knew how to talk. And what you have to realize is you can't be a Coca-Cola trying to go into the Black community and you got 5 white executives trying to sit and tell you how you're going to get into the Black community. You don't know us. You don't know our culture. You don't know how to properly articulate the things that we are looking for. So it needed to be one of us sitting at that table to be able to say, this is how we're going to be able to deliver. And this is what our people are going to want to see. That's what makes us the more diverse, because now you're able to go into that market and actually speak to those people. And they're not going to be able to say, oh, this is whitewash. They're just trying to drive something down to us. No, it actually relates to exactly what we deal with. And that was the same for all communities, whether it be white, Black, Latino, Asian, anybody. Having somebody from that background with a seat at that table to be able to say, no, y'all are completely missing the mark. This is not going to translate well to us. And you've seen that from those ads where that things have gone bad, and you see and you say, who was the team behind that? And you look, and it was nobody from that demographic that was sitting at the table. And we could have saved you a lot of time if you had just allowed somebody from that demographic to sit at the table.
I love that you said,
Daniel.
You are absolutely, you said something, because, you know, Pepsi was the first to realize that our community was a space to speak to. They started with the ads and the actually bringing individuals from, you know, the Black background to, you know, to actually come to the table to put together campaigns. They also did that across not just African American, but Hispanic. You know, they actually, you know, Asian American, they did that. They did the work to actually appeal to every single demographic. They did the work. They understood what needed to happen. And I love the fact that these stories are coming out on how these corporations realized they had to have voices from those communities to speak to those communities. Either you get on the trend to speak to the audience, or you end up failing. Because I could probably list companies that failed because they weren't able to speak to everybody. They weren't able to do that because their team wasn't diverse enough to do that. There's been a lot of companies that have gone under because they targeted a certain, and I can say that in African American Black community, their companies failed because they weren't able to speak to everyone. And I think we should. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
Oh, no. I was going to say, well, that's exactly, you guys are spitting right now, but that's exactly, Chandra, when you mentioned originally that these companies, you know, they will fail if they're not doing, you know, thinking about building a diverse team, like they're not going to do well. And my initial reaction to you saying that was let them and be under fire, fail. Don't build, don't grow. It's natural selection, in my opinion. Like, take them out. If that's the case. Just go. They can go.
So one thing Tanya said earlier is about watching what these companies do, because they may be removing DEI because, you know, certain states and organizations are going to face restrictions from it. So that's why the company kind of said, hey, let's pull it back. But we know we got to watch and see what they do. Are they expanding their mentorship and sponsorship programs to underrepresented employees? Are they prioritizing diverse hiring practice without calling it DEI? Are they still building inclusive leadership teams and making sure that they are training their people on those culture programs? And then, you know, are they focusing on skill-based hiring and saying, hey, we're not going to focus on skill-based hiring, because I shouldn't be sitting at the table with somebody whose dad worked at the company and just handed him the keys while I had to go and get my doctorate and go through all of that for us to feel like we're the same person. So now maybe they will look at that. But if they're not, that's when we need to start scaling back and boycotting and removing our black dollars from them.
Lyric said work ethic, real quick, Lyric said work ethic and positive attitude and willingness to train and learn. It should be about character. Totally agree. And then here's Helen. She said, Black folks have benefited the least from DEI. Hello. We must be careful not to perpetuate the loudest and grossly inaccurate narratives. Once again, white women have benefited most from DEI. Thoughts?
And
yes,
I will say that.
That's a good reminder.
It's not even white women.
Daniel, what you were saying before about the skills, I remember, now I'm about to tell my age, y'all. So there was a time where you actually had to go in and take a test to actually go in and do a full test, right? You know, we had a whole paragraphs. We actually had to take skills-based testing. And if you were hired based on the scores of that test, they didn't know anything about you. They went off of your scores. They went off about your narrative that you replied with. And I realized then you had to have that skill set before you could sit in that chair. And I don't know why we got away from that, but we would have had.
That's a good point.
Yeah, because I used to have to study to go and apply for a job. Yeah, and it's like we got away from that, and it was like you had to.
We didn't get away from that.
No, I mean, you get what I'm saying.
We didn't get away from that.
I had to go in knowing the company, knowing their background, knowing their history.
Okay, let's take that one step further. We are not usually those that are hiring and owning these companies. So if they got rid of those things, it was to what? Be able to put whoever they wanted, not the most qualified people, in those spaces, because top dollar, we were usually the ones that qualified. If we actually got brought in, if our name didn't sound some kind of way for them to deny us the opportunity, but we did not take those standards away. And that is something that people are not addressing. We did not take those standards away. They took those standards away to be able to put whoever they wanted in those seats without the qualifications, without any knowledge or experience to be able to take that job. So completely agree with what you're saying. I wouldn't even mind. I wouldn't mind taking the test.
I wouldn't either. I don't mind. Like, and that's I thought it was weird when I went to an interview and they were like, oh, yeah. I was like, so when am I going to, the first thing I was like, okay, so where's the assessment? We don't do that. We just go off of your references. And I'm like, wait, pause, flag on the play.
We go to LinkedIn and see who you know.
You about to get, because I actually came in. I have a book of references that are 3 pages long that said everything about my skill set, all of those things. I came in with my Bible. Y'all gonna know that I am good at what I do.
My portfolio. We all have portalios, like copies.
With actual proof that I wrote.
I did the things.
Manuals, all these things, because listen, I don't have the assessments anymore. So I came with a whole, like, they were like, what are you carrying? Oh, this is so you can know who I am. I just slide this across the table.
All the things. Helen, one more time, she said, there's no such thing as partial boycotting an establishment. The retailer must feel the absence of the black dollar. Edwin, glad to be joining. And then Lyric, exactly, Miss Knightsen. Yes, Miss Knightsen is always on point, okay? She's always on point. She's always on. Again, how and when did Target alert their black vendors of the decision to pull out of DEI? If they had any respect for them as business partners, they told them in advance. Did that happen? That actually, I don't know.
That's a good question.
That is a good question.
I think they were pretty blindsided, because I did see a creator say that they had filmed a campaign, like they just shot everything. It's coming out for Black History Month, and they were completely blindsided. Like, and the campaign's still like just scheduled to go out, like nothing happened. So
you could see the NFL last night. I know we haven't gotten there yet, but a lot of the ads that they dropped highlighted diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I was like, oh, look at them. They want to stand. But I was like, that probably was recorded before they got in office and finally get it from there. But
in the NFL of all people, like,
I know. That's why I was like, okay, Roger Goodell, this is what you're doing.
But look, the NFL is doing better numbers than the NBA these days, so I'm not even mad. I'm like, okay,
but to have that ad,
he ain't mad either.
But Matthew McConaughey and they had Martin Luther King in there and all. I was like,
but Snoop,
okay,
Snoop,
yeah. Can we go back to something really quick? Something Please. Daniel said caught my attention because we used to. I know that historically it's always been kind of a talking point and a fact that diversity has really benefited white women. Has that changed, Daniel? I know you mentioned saying that that's not even the most accurate recent information.
Yeah, well, so what it's shown is that since 2020, I was watching something yesterday that DEI efforts increased, as we know, in 2020. That's kind of post-2020, post-COVID. And they said that, while, yes, white women benefited from it, white men continue to dominate the senior management roles. So it's been minimal changes to how that group, how other groups have impacted those senior leadership positions. So like Tanya was saying, we didn't take away some of those skill-based testing. It's still those, white men who sit in those dominant senior management roles. And as you look at those companies, they may have a woman head, but that board, if you look at the board behind them, it's definitely dominated by those white men.
You definitely have to look at the board nowadays because, people like, oh, the CEO is like, no, there's a board of directors. If you all understood how companies were run, look at the board of directors, because I've sat in meetings and heard the direction that they've given to the CEO and realize, people need to realize it's not just that CEO. That CEO is a figurehead that implements the practices that are set forth by the board. And if they don't do what the board says, guess what? You'll see them plucked and removed, and somebody who will listen will be put in place. So that's all. It's educate yourselves. We have information at our fingertips. I can't stress that enough. The data is out there. The processes are out there. Just the information is right there. Just go look for it. Like it's so.
Listen, yeah, okay. So we beat the DEI horse to death, and hopefully people will be a lot more cognizant and pay attention to what is going around and happening in these companies. I hope you guys will continue to have conversation with each other, communicate what is happening inside of these organizations, and make sure that we stay informed about what's actually going on, not just what is being said. But one of the things that's being said, and it's irking my nerves, is certain communities are trying to figure out where are the Black people at? Why they not riding for us? Why they not helping us? Where's Michelle Obama? Where's Black Lives Matter? Why ain't nobody helping us? What is going on? Can somebody tell them where the 92% is? Because I think they must have forgot. And November was not that far away. We are not gone that far from November for y'all to be asking, where is the 92%? I mean, can somebody help me?
What I always say to people when they ask that question is, Black people know how to shift. We've been shifting our entire lives. So that's why you ain't seen us. This ain't nothing new to us. We gonna shift and we gonna do what we need to do. So you other communities are finally feeling what it feels like for what we've had to deal with our entire time. And so when I say that, most times they're like, yeah, I'm like, we're gonna shift, we're gonna thrive, we're gonna make sure that we make it happen. So that's what I just say to them in that regard. We're not coming to save you when we've been having to save ourselves the entire time.
I don't understand. Let's go back really quick to this whole, I'm sorry. From the civil rights movement, I'm not trying to be as mean, but what I'm about to say is this. People are tired. You for wanting someone, especially a whole demographic, to always pull up and save. Like, look at what happened in Georgia. Look at what happened with Stacey, like with Stacey's campaign. You know what I'm saying? Like, you have to look at all of those things where, we have a whole demographic of individuals, Black women who are actually pulling together and making sure that we're doing our part to support everybody, you know, and we don't have that support back. And so for you to expect a whole demographic of people who have been told they are not good enough, what they're doing is not significant, what they've done is, you know, we are argumentative, a problem, all these things. Listen, it is okay for us to sit out so that things can play out the way they need to play out, because being stressed out and worried about everybody when no one's worried about you, personally, for me, I can't do it. You know, I honestly cannot sit up here and say, "Oh my gosh, I'm going to go fight for something," even though I know I'm fighting for everybody and not just myself. You can't do that. You can't expect people who you have told that they're not good enough, or they're only getting a free pass because of who they are. No, you can't expect us to ride for you when you don't ride for me. You know, so yes, sometimes it's okay to sit it out and look at what happened. We're sitting it out and letting things play out. We're not putting the cape on no more. And because I can only speak from my personal me being who I am. You can't put the cape on, because we'll always go in and be like, you know what, baby, move out the way. Let me get this for you. And you can't. I'm from the South. I know firsthand on what has happened time and time again. And it's in my nature to say, you know what? No, you're not going to do this to them. Even though this person may hate who I am based on what I look like, I'm still going to make sure they're not going to harm you. But then again, you'll turn around and, you know, I'm sorry. Sometimes it's okay to say, let me protect myself and put me first really quick. You know, I mean, cookies.
It's like there's a horse loose in a hospital.
Hold on. I'm sorry. I'm not the best tech person, but I need to show you this. I need to show y'all this, and I need to get your input, because a friend of mine sent this to me, and I was like, this is perfect, and I need to get your input. I'm sorry, Chan. You can continue.
The guy being the president. The incubators and smash them with my hooves. I got nice hooves and a long tail. I'm a horse. And it's like, oh, that's what I thought you'd say, you dumb fucking horse. And then for a second, we were like, maybe the horse catcher will catch the horse. And then the horse is like, I have fired the horse catcher. Would it be allowed no matter who the horse is? I don't remember.
Oh my God.
And I say all that to say,
Spot on.
how in the entire hell does anybody expect us to come help with that shit? We ain't got no answers for you. We was trying to keep you from having to deal with the horse in the hospital. So what are we supposed to do about y'all's horse?
Yeah. No, I always tell black sisters, the black women have held us down and have shaped a lot of the things that we have done throughout even history. I mean, you look at Harriet Tubman and Rosa Parks and Fannie Lou Hamer. Then you look in the political space. You got Shirley Chisholm. You got Stacey Abrams. You got Ketanji Brown Jackson. You got Henrietta Lacks in the medical. You got Rebecca Lee Crumpler, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpler, make sure I get that right. Colbert, Madam C.J. Walker. Black women have held it down and tried to shape and derive and change everything that's been going on, as we as Black men have not necessarily been there to support and stand behind them as we should. Because imagine if those two powerhouses came together.
Man.
Even with Kamala, Black women did what they needed to do, and then Black men were sitting there like, well, I'm like, shut up. Just do what we need to do and take care of business, and things will go the way that it's supposed to.
It's
sad. And thank you for saying that, Daniel. Because one thing I just want to point out is, like, I don't know, you saw how we were looking the other way. You saw me and Chant. You saw how we were looking, because it was none of our business.
No,
that's right. Because it's none of our business. Because truly, Black women are just not doing the emotional labor anymore. It has become so expected, and a lot of the things that are happening, and there's folks being like, well, we didn't know that this was going to happen. We didn't know that he was going to fire the horse catcher, like when things like that are happening. And we're just like, literally, like, we said that would happen. And so now I think this is just, I'm so glad that we all kind of got on the same page of being this 92%. And saying, you know what, we need some self-care, some self-preservation. You know what, I would love to see what you're going to do. Why don't you do it? And that's actually something I literally had to say to somebody at a previous employer before, when they tried to put all the DEI efforts on myself. And I said, you know what, I'd love to see what you're going to do. And that's going to be the reaction for the time being.
I love that for us. Okay, because the way that we have stood up for reproductive rights and DACA and LGBTQIA+ and any and everybody has been astronomical to just turn around and get kicked in the teeth. But someone that did show up for us last night was Kendrick Lamar and Lettucey and Uncle Sam and even Roger Goodell. So before we get out of here, give me your thoughts. And we're going to end with you, Tiff, my little LA girl. But Daniel, let's start with you. I want to know your thoughts on the Super Bowl, the performance leading up to it, pre-game, post-game. Come on, run it.
I mean, I think the NFL actually, they probably already had this in the works because you hired people months ago. So, I mean, I'll still give them their credit, but they crushed it last night in regards to just how they positioned everything, with Lettucey kicking it off and going from there. I don't know what happened with the national anthem. My brother owed us some. So I don't know. He just owed us some get back on that one there. But from there, then Kendrick went. And then I think the whole Kendrick performance went over a lot of people's head. They didn't understand the Uncle Sam moment. They didn't understand the part of having them recreate that flag, but also having that divided right there in the center to kind of showcase that. So it was more or less a lot of storytelling that jumped through time that I was very happy to see. And I was glad that they picked Kendrick, because Lil Wayne or whoever else, the Hot Boys, they wouldn't have been able to do that. And then frankly, them white folks in the stadium wouldn't have known how to even respond to most of the songs that they would have been doing in there anyway. So to hear that whole stadium go A minor at that time showed you that he had just completely encompassed everything within there. So I was happy for it. And then even with Jalen Hurts afterwards, his demeanor and how he carried that win, he wasn't this cocky African-American dude who came out in the gate and was like, I knew this was going to happen. He was still humble and said, hey, it took me a while to get here. I had to go through my struggles. I had to go through roadblocks, and I still made sure that I persevered and was able to reach this moment. So it's not about just now. It's about everything I've had to go through to get to this point. So it was a night for Black people last night. I'll just say that.
Definitely. Chan?
I will say, even though I think it was for everybody, because it was a historical lesson, but also it showed that we can speak to any group of people. And I mean, with Kendrick Lamar, like, to have that many people in a stadium in unison. I mean, granted the line was petty, but they came together, they united to be petty together. But I love the symbolism. I loved everything about it. I could not. Just the different, it took you on a ride, a storytelling, and it actually prompted you to think it was something that was cerebral. It wasn't just superficial performance. It was something that we're going to talk about and think about for months, probably even years. It set the bar to be able to appeal to everyone, but also a class of people who were basically told that they weren't good enough. So I'm excited. I love the performance. I really wish it could have been longer. Just saying, because Samuel Jackson, everybody loves him. Between him and Morgan Freeman, I was just waiting for Morgan Freeman to come out. But that it was a great performance. I loved it, and
they needed the best cusser in the league.
Yes, they did, and they did. They had him,
and he did it without even cussing. Well, he cussed one time, but yeah, they needed that.
But
before Tiff go, I just want to say Kendrick's genius is that he doesn't spoon feed his audience. He makes you know and make sure that you listen and educate yourself after the fact. So I knew before Miss Callie went, I had to make sure I put that in there because I know she finna drop some gems.
Yes.
No, it's funny because I was just gonna say. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Chan.
No, I was just saying. Go ahead, Tiff.
Okay, no, listen, I was going to say that's one of my favorite things about when Kendrick Lamar performs. There's always Easter eggs. There's always something that you might not have even caught that you can like look up the next day. And so I find that very fun. I feel like that Super Bowl was for us, which I really appreciated. Tanya and I were talking about how, he had songs from GNX on there, not even his most mainstream songs. And I literally felt like it was for us. It felt like it was for the fans. It felt like it was for California, coming off of everything last year, coming off of, Dot getting his Grammy win. I think that A minor might just get me through 2025. I mean, Serena sea walking, the symbolism of storytelling, just like you guys said. Serena, listen, there's levels to the pettiness, and I'm gonna say I was just
with the small A.
Yeah, his A minor chain.
The A minor which is related to in music. As soon as I saw it as a music person, I was like, oh,
off rip. Yes. That's what I mean by there's just always something to discover. And one last shout out that I want to give that I haven't really heard from many people is shout out to Charm LaDonna, the choreographer. She's been choreographing for Kendrick a lot and a ton of stars. She's fabulous. She's putting on for LA. She's one of the best in the business. Shout out to Charm LaDonna. She's absolutely been crushing it. And that performance was another example of her just killing it once again.
Absolutely. Well, for me, super shout out to Kendrick for always, if you look, I had to watch it multiple times, but there's always local faces. He takes people from his community and he takes them with him. So there were some local dancers in there. He had the Bay Area in there. Y'all already know. I was like, oh, I felt that. Like, I almost lost my mind for a minute, but I was like, bring it down. You're too old for this. Don't act up in front of my kids. So
no, go ahead, act up, Tanya.
No, that's what I was like. No, I had to tell myself that last night. Like, I was like, oh, it was fizzed out. I was like, oh, and I know a lot of people didn't catch that. There are things that each of us catches with his performances that maybe someone else doesn't, on top of the fact that he keeps it local. He brings in his people. He doesn't just bring dancers from New York and other places. He keeps it in the fam and helps uplift other young artists. I love that. I'm a California girl. I love to see people get their shine, especially when they've been working for the opportunity for so long. So I absolutely love that. Always shout out to the D9, Lettucey's a Delta, Jalen Hurts is a Mega, his chick is an AKA that he's about to marry. There's a bunch of other Greeks that were playing. So always got to give that D9 love out there. But it was it just felt good. Like sometimes it just feels good and it's okay to celebrate that. Again, we'll be watching, obviously, the NFL to see if that kind of feeling continues. Do we always feel like we're included? Do we always feel like we're a part of what's going on and that we're being considered, especially with the league being over 50% African-American? No one's asking anyone to cow down to us. No one's asking you to hire Black people just because they're Black. No one's asking for you to bring us in the room just because we're Black. But if you are a business and you want to do your best work Having diverse voices in the conversation benefits you even more than it benefits us, because you're the one that get the majority of the money. So I hope people start to look at this stuff a little deeper than just having visceral reactions to everything that's being said. We need to really start looking at how people are moving and stop being so reactive, but also recognizing that we have to do the work to continue to brand ourselves, to collaborate with one another, to stay in communication, and to continue to support one another. And I did not have a problem watching the Chiefs lose, because their biggest fan was in the audience, and I loved that for them.
I told him.
So,
period.
That was
period.
He should have never came, because I believe that was their omen right there. So
I do too.
Stadium.
I do too. So before we get out of here, Tiff, let the people know how to get in touch with you, or, follow your journey or stay connected.
Absolutely. I always love chatting with you guys. Chan, you're cracking me. I feel like we're like having our kiki over here. But I love this group. I can't wait to do another chat with you guys. You guys can always connect with me, definitely on LinkedIn. I'm very active on LinkedIn. I love when people slide in my DMs. Let's have a chat. Let's meet up, whatever it might be. I'd love to know how I can support you in whatever your endeavors are, creative goals, business, just to chit chat. Let me know. I'm Tiffany Knightsen on LinkedIn. And then you could also follow us, brandcurators.co, on Instagram and other platforms. That's also our website URL. If you're in New York, let's hang. We do a ton of community events. We're doing even more this year. And if you're going to be at South by Southwest, please do let me know.
Love it. Chan?
Okay, so you did get on me before. So yes. Okay, so I love when people reach out to me. You can reach out to me in DMs. I'm okay with that. But please, if you want to become a speaker, I'm going to be launching another series of just information, because sometimes people ask questions. So I'm trying to get you these answers on how to be more proactive in your outreach, your strategic comms, different things like that. I do have a course coming to, because I do teach at different conferences and things like that. So I would love to continue to share my knowledge. You can follow me on all platforms. Any questions about elections, but getting registered to vote, all of those things, I'm a resource for that, because everybody needs to have that information. And I know it's so easy to say, look it up, but I want to have that repository for people to be able to get that information at your fingertips. So stay tuned for more newsletters that are going to come out that will help you with the information that you know you need, but you need. So thank you so much, Tanya. And this was a great panel. I love each and every one of y'all. This was very good.
Daniel?
Yeah, I need to hang out with some more Black women, because I need to get me my sip, my tea, and everything. Y'all facial expressions. I don't know how we, I need to get that a little sass in there. I know that ain't the popular thing to say, but I need to incorporate that. But you can follow me on Instagram, Twitter, everywhere. DJS1914. I will precursor that by saying I'm all over the place. I will say I'm blunt. I will say what's needed to be said at the time that it needs to be said without holding back. So if you're gonna follow me, please be prepared just for that. So and don't come for me unless I sent for you, because I will respond. So I just make sure I always put that out there. But gonna be traveling a lot, so I didn't know Tiff was up in New York, so I might need that's my favorite place, so we'll be up there soon. So
yes, let's meet up.
Only 3 hours late, girl.
Yes, and Tanya, thank you as always for everything that you do and bringing us together and knowing who needs to be in these conversations.
Absolutely. You guys know I love you to death. I love our community. And like you said, we are all over, like E40 says, we are all over the place like space. We'll see you.
Yes.
Hey, thanks for showing up to the podcast where we all know that the best leaders are lifetime learners. When you get a sec, take a moment, leave a comment. What you think about today's episode? And share it with someone that you know could use the gems that were dropped today. Follow and subscribe. You don't want to miss who's coming up next. You never know who could show up here and what they could say. For your professional needs, marketing, PR, communications, and leadership, make sure you follow us on all social media platforms at Sand and Shores, or hit us up at sandandshores.com. Again, thanks so much for showing up. We appreciate you, and we'll see you soon.